Welcome to Late Start Piano. My name is Josh LaFleur, and today we're going to be going over scale degrees, what those are, how to use them, how to practice them, why you should know them, and a whole lot more. So this is going to be kind of a deep dive more into the music theory side of things. A lot of times on this channel I kind of show you how to play songs or upload covers and talk about the mental side of learning piano later in life if you're an adult. This one's going to be kind of a music theory class 101, so if you're kind of a nerd like me, or that's something that's interesting for you, then make sure you stick around for the full thing. So when we talk about scale degrees, we need to know, first of all, what a scale is. If you are trying to learn piano, or if you are in the process of learning the piano, then I'm sure you have heard about scales before. So all a scale is, here's C major. It is a set of specific notes that follow a specific pattern. That's all it is. It's a group of notes that they follow a specific pattern, and they're a specific set of notes. So in C major, we play from C to C. It's another characteristic of scales is that they just extend one octave. So from C to C, it could be from A flat to A flat, could be from F to F. Whatever it is, a scale is just that one octave, because once you get past that, everything starts to repeat, right? So from here you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then it repeats. So it's still the same exact notes that follow that same exact order. So in C major, it's all the white notes. And the order or the formula for any major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And we're talking about whole steps and half steps. So I made a whole other video talking about this in depth, but just quickly, all a half step is, if you play C, if you want to play a half step up, that's D flat or C sharp. If you want to play a half step down, it's B. All a half step is, you play whatever note you're playing on. If you play the next note up, or you play the next note going down, that's a half step. A whole step is just two half steps. So we skip a note. So from C to D is a whole step. From D to E is a whole step. From E to F sharp or G flat would be a whole step because we're skipping that F. So that's all whole steps and half steps are. And that C major scale, that formula again for any major scale, start on C, you play a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and half step. And it just repeats. Right? All the way up and all the way down. And that formula can be used for any single major scale no matter what it is. So you take something weird like A flat, we start on A flat, we play a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and half step. Right? It's the same exact formula that can be used for any single major scale. So once we know what scales are, a certain group of notes that follow a specific order, we understand our formula, so we can use this on any major scale. You can pick any random note and use that formula, and you'll be playing a major scale from whatever note you start on. Now that we know those first two, now we can finally talk about scale degrees. So scale degrees are taking each note of the scale, and there's only 7 notes, right? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it repeats. So you could say there's 8 if you want to count both C's, or whatever note you're starting from, or there's only 7 unique notes, might be a better way to put it. So 7 unique notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If we want to play a C sharp major, we would do C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, and then we're back at C. So we have this specific note, this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then we're back at the 1. Right? That's C sharp. I know it's saying the flats, but that would be C sharp major. 7 unique notes, no matter what major scale you're working with. So we can give each of those unique notes a number. So there would be 7 numbers, right? Hopefully that makes sense. In C major, this would be the 1. Because we're in C major, this is what's known as the tonic, which means this is the first note. This is the note that feels most at home. If you notice when I'm playing that scale, once I play that C, things sound resolved, things sound at rest. If I were to play that same exact scale, and I think it works better, you can hear it better at least going down. So if I were to play that same scale, but then stop at D, it doesn't feel resolved, it doesn't feel at rest. You need to play that C to make sure it's finished out, right? And same thing going up, if I were to stop on something like, you're waiting, you're expecting that, right? You're expecting that one to come through. And that one, again, just your home note is when things feel most at rest. It's when things feel complete and satisfied, right? So that's the one. Then we can also go to the two, which would just be the next note in the scale, okay? So this is a important delineation I'm talking about now. You have to know your scales to know what the scale degrees are, because in C major, it's pretty easy. The 1 is C, 2 is D, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It all makes sense because it's white notes. But when you start playing stuff that's weird, if you take G flat major, for example, even though this is a B, this is technically C flat in G flat major, right? We have G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, E flat, F, and then G flat. Those are the 7 unique scale degrees in G flat major. And what makes it weird is because we're playing B, but in the actual scale of G flat, in context, it's actually technically a C flat. Right, here's C. If you flatten something, you just go down a half step, which would be B. So C flat sounds the same as B natural. They're the same exact pitch, but depending on the context of what scale we're in, what key signature a song is in, we give it a different name. So it's important to understand scale degrees are the number assigned to the specific note in that scale, right? So again, very easy for C major. It's all the white notes. But in G flat major, this would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we're back at the 1. So it'd be easy if you don't know the formulas or you don't know the scales that well, it'd be easy to maybe think, okay, I'm going to play C now, right? Because C is a note in G flat major that belongs in the scale, but it's not the 4th, right? C flat is the 4th, and then we go to D flat, the 5th, right? So it's things like that that you want to be aware of, and things like that that you need to understand as you get better as a piano player and just as a musician overall. So now that we know the scale degrees, we talked about the whole step, half steps, we talked about the formulas, we talked about different scales and how to use that formula for each one. Now we can look at even broader picture. So we just looked at individual notes, right? But the cool thing about scale degrees and knowing these music theory concepts is that these can also apply to chords. So going back to C major, if we take the 1, but play it as chords instead of single notes, we'd have C major, then we'd have D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and then we're back at C major. Right, and we still get that resolved feeling once we go back to that C major. We still get that same feeling, even though we're playing the chord versus just a single note, we get that same resolved ending, that same consonant feeling of things are resolved and things are completed. So what's cool about this, now that we're introducing harmony, introducing the chords, is that we can still assign it the same numbers. So in C major, G was the 5th, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we play a G major chord, that's the 5th chord. That's a 5 chord, right? This would be the 6th chord. This is the 4 chord, 3 chord, 2 chord, and then the 1 chord. So still the same thing, and in C major it's easy because you're just skipping a note every time. could also do something like B major. Or let's do, so it actually matches up. Let's do D flat major. This would be the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6. Then we would go to the 7, and then we're back at the 1. So if you notice what I just did there and in C major, even that has a pattern, it has a formula to it as well. So the 1 chord in a major scale is always going to be major, C major, right? The 2 chord is always going to be minor, D minor. 3 chord's always going to be minor, in this case E minor. 4 is always major, 5 is major, 6 is always minor, 7 is always diminished. So in a major scale, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord are all major. The 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 6 are all minor, and then that 7 is the only diminished chord when we're talking about major scales and chords that are diatonic to that scale. Diatonic just meaning it belongs, right? We're not playing any note that doesn't belong in the scale. Even with that B diminished, the individual notes, B, D, and F, all belong to C major. Those are all notes that are in C major, which means it's diatonic. If we were to play, let's say, E flat major, now we're playing non-diatonic chords because E flat is not in C major and neither is B flat. Normally in that scale, it's an E natural and a B natural. So if we play E flat and B flat, that's non-diatonic because those individual notes don't belong to that scale. And of course, that works the same for any other scale as well. So we take something like, let's do A major. And it's using flats, but it should be sharp. So it'd be A, C sharp, and E. That's diatonic. B minor, A, D, F sharp. That's the 2 chords, a minor chord, so that makes sense. We go to the 3 chord, which is C sharp minor, right? All those notes belong. D is the 4, 5 would be the E, 6 is F sharp minor, and then that 7 would be G sharp diminished, and then we're back at the 1. So same exact formula. Here's the 1 chord, still major. The 4 chord, major, 5 is major. Then we had the 2, which is minor, the 3, which is minor, and the 6, which is minor. And then we just had the 7th being the 1 diminished chord. And then we're back at that home chord, the A, right? So that's important to know because if somebody, or if you're reading a lead sheet and let's say you're in C major, chances are if you're in C major, you're going to be using C, F, and G. They're going to come up, right? Very popular chords. Those are all the major chords, C, F, and G. So if you're practicing your scales and you're practicing those specific chords, if you know those chords and you practice them, you practice your arpeggios within those chords, you practice your octaves in those chords, all of those kinds of things, then when you go to play the song that's in that key, you're already familiar with those movements. You're already familiar with, probably, you can predict where the song is heading because you know what chords are going to be used. And you've also physically practiced those movements for each of those chords as well, right? So you even have the physical movements down as well. If a song is in B major and you're not used to B major, then you're not going to be able to play that song as well as you want to because you don't know what the chords are, first of all. So if you see something like G sharp minor, but you don't know what notes make up a G sharp minor chord, it's going to just be more difficult for you, right? So that's why all of these things relate. All these things as far as practicing your scales, knowing the notes that are within each scale, knowing the chords that make up each of those scales, knowing which chords are minor, which chords are major, knowing your half steps and your whole steps, all of those things that I've talked about in this video. That's why they're so helpful for you, because when you get out there in the real world and you start trying to play real songs that use scales that are in certain key signatures, all of those things that you practiced before are now going to be able to translate to the actual song, which means you're going to be able to play it and learn it faster and easier. And of course, it's going to sound a whole lot better as well, right? So all those things to keep in mind. As far as where you want to go from here, if you like what I'm talking about here, you understand what I'm saying, it makes sense, you like the way I present these kind of things, I am offering lessons right now via Zoom, similar format to what I'm doing right here. You can start those lessons by sending me an email. Email address is down below. In addition, if you don't want to do lessons yet, you don't have that kind of time commitment, I also have a Major Scales Made Simple course. You can go to www.ladestarpiano.com/scales. Link is also down below in the description. And I walk you through how to play all 12 of your major scales, how to play it going up and down with both hands, doesn't matter what scale we're playing. I show you how to play all 12 major scales with both hands. I show you the correct fingerings. I show you the correct notes. I give you the sheet music so you can see it as well. And I also talk about how chords are, or how scales are formed in much more detail than I did today. And I also give you 3 free bonuses, including my 34 essential keys to playing the piano later in life, completely for free. It's a PDF. We talk about mindset. We talk about approach. We talk about best practice techniques. We talk more about music theory. And I also give you 2 other lessons that involve chords so that you can play piano as fast as possible. All of that, what I just gave you, the 3 bonuses plus the course itself, is only $9. So for $9, you get all of those things and you can have instant access to it right away. Again, to get that, link is down below. With all that said, again, my name is Josh LaFleur with Late Start Piano, and let me know if you have any questions.